Please join me in welcoming Woodward Young from School of Engineering and Applied Sciences.
Making good decisions in life is really complicated. We all want to make good decisions. We all have wishes, dreams, desires that we hope to realize. We all want things to go our way. We would all like to be successful and happy. However, getting there can be pretty complicated. One of the first things that you should realize is that choosing and selecting your wishes, dreams, and desires is one of the most important decisions you'll make in your life. Your wishes, dreams, and desires are so important because exactly those things that will guide you and eventually end up shaping and defining your life. Just as surely as you will end up at the North Pole if you have the strength and endurance to follow the North Star, your dreams and desires will take you to some eventual destination. You should be very sure that your dreams and desires are actually taking you to a place that you want to be. For example, if it's your desire to be rich and famous, then realize that you may very well end up one day very rich and famous, but perhaps without any friends or family or without love. Just as surely as the North Star will lead you to the North Pole, you should also realize that the North Pole can be a very cold, dark, and lonely place. For myself, I was certainly interested in having money, but it was never my passion or dream. Rather, I had an insatiable curiosity to see and to understand. It was this insatiable curiosity that shaped and defined my life. It began when I was very young. I drove my parents crazy with my unstoppable questions about everything. I disassembled and I tinkered with everything in the house. When I went to university and graduate school, I actually found courses in related fields and other departments to be so interesting and fascinating. That's why it took me so long to graduate. Later in my career, I went against the serious career advice of my mentors and decided not to specialize in just one narrow field, but simply chose to let the problem itself and my curiosity guide me. In all, it has been my insatiable curiosity that has guided me to become a teacher here and brought me here to Harvard. The second thing that I want to share with you is that making good decisions is not just about doing a correct calculation and analysis on things that you can see and quantify. Making good decisions is very important, but very complicated. It would seem like we should have developed some sort of algorithm or app to help us do this. Unfortunately, algorithms, apps, calculations, and analyses are fundamentally based on logic, math. Throughout my life, I was always taught that logic reigned supreme, and it was the ultimate tool for a reasoned and rational life. Unfortunately, it wasn't until I got much older that I realized that there are actually profound and critical limits to what logic and math can teach you, and especially about life. Without getting too philosophical, let me just say, life is not just a geometric proof. Life is not just an optimization problem. Life is not just an engineering problem either. There are so many more variables in life, so many more unknowns, so many more complications. Consider that logic and analysis can only be applied to what is seen, what is known, and what can be quantified. When you think about your life, some of the most amazing and precious parts of life are exactly those things that you can't see, that you can't know, and can't be quantified. How can you quantify happiness, satisfaction, love, regret? How can you expect to make a good decision if you only base your decision on what you can see and quantify. A long time ago, when I was much younger, I tried to apply logic to figure out the best person to marry. Without getting into the details, it didn't turn out that well. Please don't make the same mistake of applying logic where it doesn't belong. Finally, I'd like to share with you a simple way to be happy. While life can be complicated and unpredictable, finding happiness can actually be surprisingly simple. First, happiness is actually something that comes from inside yourself, although outside events and other people can certainly influence your happiness. Perhaps some of you were happy when you were admitted to Harvard. Perhaps some of you would be happy if you made $1 million. Perhaps some of you would not be happy. The key insight is that if you're expecting to make $1,000, then you might be very happy if you make $1 million. When people get more than they expect, they're usually happy. Similarly, if you're expecting to get an A in a course and you get a B, you'll probably be unhappy. So when people get less than they expect, they're usually unhappy. Your happiness is actually determined by what's inside your head. It's based on your expectations. Now, the fortunate and unfortunate thing about people is that they adapt. If you're unable to make $1 million, you'll probably be able to adjust your expectations and still be able to be happy. On the other hand, if you are able to make $1 million, you'll probably adapt, become less happy, and find another challenge. In fact, it's very difficult for people to constantly exceed their expectations and be happy. There's no end to the perpetual chasing of goals and accomplishments. If you live this way, you're eventually going to fall short of your expectations and be unhappy. Instead, the very simple way to be happy is just to expect less. Now, I personally know that's a very, very difficult thing to do. But there's more to this than just this seemingly glib answer, expect less. So let me explain. Expect less means to be humble. Don't be arrogant or greedy. Don't be boastful. When you're arrogant and greedy, you're just needlessly raising your expectations. Why? It's only going to lessen your happiness if things turn out well, and it's only going to increase your unhappiness if they don't turn out. Expect less also means to be thankful. Be thankful for what you have. Be thankful for what actually does happen. While you might be unhappy that you got less than what you expected, it's also entirely possible that things could have turned out much worse. While you might have expected to win the lottery, you might rightfully be disappointed that you didn't win. It also might have been your fate to have been killed in a traffic accident after depositing the check in the bank. Also, I found that when I get something that's less than I expect, it's usually because I haven't yet realized that I'm actually getting something different and sometimes better. For example, if you're expecting to have a beautifully grilled steak, but instead you get a little piece of cold, raw fish, you could be very unhappy. But instead, you might realize that you're actually be given the opportunity to try something different and maybe even better: sushi. I hope that you can realize what you expect is only based on your limited knowledge and experience, and there might be so many more wonderful things which you don't yet know. So be thankful for your disappointments, your setbacks, your difficulties. They're actually an opportunity to learn and become better. Finally, expect less does not mean do not do your best. If you do not do your best on something that you care about, you will certainly regret, and you certainly won't be happy. So in summary, the simple key to being happy is to expect less, which means be humble, be thankful, and do your best. Simple to say, hard to do. But I hope that you'll find some happiness from these few words that I'm able to share with you today.